I was forced to take care of my younger siblings. Now my parents are furious I moved away. I was 12 when I became a parent. Not biologically, of course. My body was still that of a child, still growing, still aching from days spent lugging backpacks filled with homework I rarely had the energy to complete. But responsibilities didn't wait for age, and childhood didn't last when there were mouths to feed, tantrums to calm, and messes to clean. My parents called it helping. They made it sound like an honor, something noble, something a good daughter did without question. Family takes care of each other, my mother would say, voice tight with exhaustion after a long shift at work. You should be grateful for your siblings. Grateful. Grateful that I was the one cooking dinner while my classmates were out at the movies. Grateful that I was soothing my crying baby brother at 2 a.m. while my parents slept undisturbed. Grateful that my childhood had been stripped away and replaced with obligations I never signed up for. I was never asked if I wanted to be their second parent. It was simply expected. And the more I did, the more they demanded. At first it was small things. Can you watch the baby while I take a quick nap? Can you make lunch while I run to the store? But quick naps became hours, and grocery trips became entire afternoons. Before I knew it, I wasn't just helping. I was raising my siblings. By the time I was 16, my role in the family was cemented. I woke up before dawn to pack lunches, got my younger siblings dressed for school, and walked them to the bus stop before dragging myself to class, where I barely had the energy to keep my eyes open. When the final bell rang, I didn't get to join my classmates at the mall or linger around talking about weekend plans. I rushed home, let myself in with the key my parents had long since given me, and got to work, cleaning, cooking, helping with homework, breaking up fights, tucking them in at night. I was the one who held my little sister when she had nightmares, the one who attended parent-teacher conferences because my mother was too tired, my father too absent, the one who covered for them when my youngest brother cried at school because he said he missed his mom, and the teacher looked at me with soft, pitying eyes as if I were the one who had failed him. And I bore it all, because I had been taught that saying no wasn't an option. But the resentment grew. It festered in the pit of my stomach every time I saw other kids living the life I was never allowed to have. It burned when I watched my parents sit back, relaxed and unconcerned, while I shouldered the responsibilities they had willingly taken on when they decided to have children. And by the time I turned 18, I had made my decision. I was leaving. I wasn't going to be their babysitter anymore. I wasn't going to be the crutch that held the family together while they reaped the rewards of my sacrifices. I was going to build a life of my own. And if they hated me for it, so be it. Packing my bags was the easiest part. I had never accumulated much, not when everything I had went to my siblings. I had spent so long prioritizing them that I had forgotten to invest in myself. My clothes were old, my shoes worn, my possessions few, but I had my documents, my savings, what little I had managed to scrape together from working part-time jobs in secret. And most importantly, I had a plan. I had applied to universities out of state. The acceptance letter had been sitting in my drawer for weeks, untouched, waiting for the moment I finally got the courage to use it. A full scholarship. Room and board covered, a real chance at something better. But I hadn't told my parents, not until the night before I left. I stood in the kitchen, my packed bags hidden behind the couch, my heart hammering against my ribs as I said the words that would change everything. I'm moving out. My mother blinked at me, confused. My father barely looked up from the TV. Where? My mother asked, like I was announcing a weekend trip. To college, out of state. A pause, then a sharp laugh. Very funny, she said, shaking her head as she turned back to the stove. Now set the table. Dinner's almost ready. I'm serious, I said, louder this time. The humor drained from her face. You're not going anywhere. Yes, I am. My father's head snapped up, his expression darkening. And who's going to take care of your brothers and sister? There it was. Not how will you support yourself? Or are you sure this is the right decision? Not a single question about me. Just immediate concern for the responsibilities I was supposed to leave behind. That's your job, I said, my voice ice cold. My mother scoffed, crossing her arms. You can't just abandon your family. I'm not abandoning anyone, I shot back. I was never supposed to be their parent. That was your choice, and I refuse to keep paying the price for it." My father's face turned red. "Don't talk to your mother like that. Then start acting like her husband instead of expecting me to do her job," I snapped. Silence. My parents didn't have an immediate response, and then my mother, voice shaking with controlled fury, said the words that would haunt me for years. "If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back." I looked at her, really looked at her, at the woman who had stolen my childhood, demanded my obedience, taken everything I had to give and still expected more. And I nodded. Okay. I picked up my bags and left. The first few months were hard. There were nights when I lay awake in my dorm room staring at the ceiling, wondering if I had made a mistake. If maybe, just maybe, I had been too cruel. If my parents had truly needed me, or if I had been selfish in walking away. But then the phone calls started. At first they were requests. "Could you come back for the weekend? Your siblings miss you. Just a short visit. That's all we ask." Then the demands came. "Your brother is failing math, and no one can help him like you can. Your sister won't stop crying because you left. Don't you feel guilty?" And when I stopped answering, the anger. "You ungrateful little brat. After everything we did for you, we sacrificed for you, and this is how you repay us?" Sacrificed. They had the audacity to act as if they had given something up for me, when all they had done was steal everything from me. And that's when I knew. I had been right to leave. I had been right to choose myself. And no matter how much they screamed, how much they begged, how much they demanded, I wasn't going back. The calls didn't stop. If anything, my silence only made them more frequent, more desperate, more vicious. At first, my mother would leave voicemails dripping with false sweetness, her voice trembling in a way that almost sounded sincere. If I hadn't spent my entire life recognizing the guilt-ridden manipulation beneath it. "Sweetheart, we miss you. Your siblings ask about you every day. Do you know how hard this has been on them? We just want to talk. Please just call me back, okay?" But when I didn't respond, the messages changed. The warmth drained, replaced by a colder, sharper edge, one that reminded me exactly why I had left in the first place. "Fine. Ignore us. Pretend you don't have a family. But don't come crawling back when you realize you're all alone." Alone. That was their biggest weapon, wasn't it? The belief that I needed them more than they needed me. That if they cut me off, I would come running back, begging for forgiveness. They underestimated me. I welcomed the silence. I wasn't responsible for anyone but myself. I didn't have to wake up at dawn to pack lunches, didn't have to rush home after class to make dinner, didn't have to check if my siblings' homework was finished before worrying about my own. I could breathe. I could exist for me. But just when I thought I had escaped, reality yanked me back. The texts started appearing from unknown numbers. At first, they were short, simple, innocent. "Hey, it's Mia. Mom said you don't want to talk to us, but I just wanted to say hi." Mia, my youngest sister, only 10 years old. The guilt dug into my ribs, an old wound threatening to tear open. She hadn't asked for any of this. None of them had. My parents were the ones who had failed them, and yet the burden of responsibility still clung to me, still whispered in the back of my mind, telling me I should be there, that I should answer, that I should help. I almost responded. Almost. But I knew better. I knew exactly what my parents were doing. Mia wouldn't have texted me on her own. She didn't even have her own phone, which meant my mother had given her one, had likely dictated the message, had told her to send it in the hopes that I would crack. I didn't. And when my silence persisted, the messages from Mia changed. "Mom says you don't love us anymore. She says you don't care. Why did you leave? What did we do wrong? Dad said you don't want us in your life. But I miss you. Please don't forget about us." Each word was a dagger, stabbing at the guilt I had tried so hard to bury. Because I hadn't forgotten them. I never would. But I couldn't go back. So I typed a response. "Mia, I love you. I will always love you. But I can't come back right now. I need you to understand that this isn't about you or Liam or Noah. It was never about you. If you ever need anything, if you ever need me, really me, I'm here. but I can't be what Mom and Dad want me to be anymore. I hope one day you understand." I hesitated for only a second before pressing send. The message was marked as read almost instantly. And then, nothing. No reply, no follow-up, no acknowledgement. My mother had gotten what she wanted, confirmation that I still cared, that I was still reachable, that I wasn't really gone. And I knew, deep down, that she wouldn't stop until she pulled me back into her grasp completely. I had won a battle, but the war was far from over. A month passed, then another. My classes consumed me, my part-time job kept me busy, and my life. I started making friends, real friends. The kind who didn't expect me to be responsible for them, the kind who didn't treat me like a built-in caretaker. I was living. And then, out of nowhere, Ethan called. I stared at his name flashing on my screen, my stomach twisting. My older brother, the one who had escaped before me, the one who had left home at 19 and never looked back. I hadn't spoken to him in years, not because I didn't want to, but because he had made himself impossible to reach. Now suddenly, he was calling. I answered. "Took you long enough to run," was the first thing he said, his voice dry, tinged with something almost like amusement. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "Yeah, well, better late than never." A pause. "They're losing their minds," he said. "Mom's been calling me nonstop, complaining about how you abandoned them." I scoffed. "That's rich. She barely even acknowledged when you left." "That's because I was useless to her," he said bluntly. "She couldn't use me to take care of the kids, so when I left it didn't matter. But you," he let out a low chuckle, "you were their crutch. And now that you're gone, they're finally feeling the weight they dumped on you." Something in my chest tightened. "Good," I said, harsher than I meant to. "Yeah," Ethan murmured. "Good." For a moment there was silence, the kind that stretched, that held years of unspoken things between us. "Why are you calling, Ethan?" I finally asked. Another pause. Then quietly, "Because I know what happens next." A shiver crawled up my spine. "What do you mean?" "I mean they're not going to stop," he said, voice steady. "Right now, they're calling, begging, guilt-tripping. But when that doesn't work, they'll get desperate." A lump formed in my throat. "They already tried using Mia," I admitted. Ethan says something under his breath. "Of course they did. That's what they do, you know? They use us against each other." I swallowed. "So what do I do?" His voice was grim. "You prepare for the next move." "And what's that?" Another pause. Then, in a voice colder than I'd ever heard it, he said, "They're going to show up." My blood ran cold. "No," I whispered. "They wouldn't." "They would," Ethan corrected. "And they will. You think they're just going to let you go? You think they're going to accept that their built-in babysitter finally cut the leash? No, little sister. They're coming for you. And you need to be ready." A sick feeling coiled in my stomach, because I knew deep down that he was right. I had left. I had run. I had escaped. But my parents? They weren't done with me yet. And the real fight was only just beginning. Ethan's words lingered in my mind long after the call ended. They're going to show up. I wanted to believe he was wrong. I wanted to believe that my parents would eventually accept my decision, that they would stop calling, stop trying to reel me back in, stop using my siblings as bait. But deep down, I knew better. They weren't the type to surrender. They weren't the type to let go. And now that I had left, now that they were forced to take responsibility for the children they had brought into the world, they weren't going to sit back and accept the burden they had spent so long dumping onto me. No, they were going to fight. And if Ethan was right, they weren't going to fight from a distance anymore. They were coming here. I prepared. I went to my building's front desk and requested my name be removed from the tenant list. I spoke to my landlord and ensured that if anyone came asking for me, they wouldn't get an answer. I blocked my parents' numbers. Again. But this time, I blocked every unknown number as well, shutting down any potential new tactics they might try. And I warned my friends, if someone shows up looking for me, don't tell them anything, I told them. Not where I live, not where I work, not anything. They agreed without question. But the sick feeling in my stomach never left. because I knew it was only a matter of time. And 2 weeks later, it happened. It was a Saturday afternoon when I heard the knock on my door. Firm, repetitive, familiar. My stomach dropped. I didn't move at first. I stayed perfectly still, my fingers curled around my phone, my breath shallow. Maybe if I ignored it, they would go away. Maybe if I stayed silent, they would think they had the wrong place. But then, "I know you're in there." My mother's voice, sharp, unyielding, furious. The knock came again, harder this time. "You have 5 seconds to open this door." I clenched my jaw. I had expected this. I had prepared for this. But hearing her voice, knowing she was standing on the other side of my door, made my heart pound harder than I wanted to admit. Another knock. "Fine," she snapped. "We'll just wait. We have all day, sweetheart." They weren't going to leave. I knew that. And if I didn't handle this now, they would come back, again and again, until I was trapped, until I had no choice but to face them. So I exhaled slowly, stood, and opened the door. My mother was exactly as I remembered her, immaculately dressed, her hair styled into that too-tight bun she always wore when she wanted to look put together. But her expression? That was pure rage. Beside her, my father stood with his arms crossed, his face blank, his posture stiff, a human wall of disappointment. And behind them? Mia. My breath caught in my throat. She was clutching my mother's hand, looking small, unsure, her eyes wide as she stared up at me. They brought her. They brought her here. I didn't know whether to be furious or sick. "Well?" my mother demanded, stepping forward. "Aren't you going to invite us in?" "No," I said flatly. A muscle in her jaw twitched. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," I said. "You're not coming in. Whatever you have to say it here." She scoffed, looking past me into my apartment. "Is this what you left us for? Some tiny, pathetic little box? I hope you're happy, living like a stranger while your real family struggles without you." I didn't flinch. "Why are you here?" I asked. My father finally spoke. His voice was low, firm, the same tone he always used when he wanted to intimidate me. "You need to come home." I laughed. Actually laughed. "No," I said. "You don't get to say no," my mother snapped. "This isn't up for debate. Your family needs you, and you're acting like a selfish, ungrateful little—" "I'm not coming home," I cut her off. "And you're going to stop trying to make me." Mia's grip on my mother's hand tightened. I took a slow breath, forcing myself to stay calm. I would not let them pull me into their chaos. "You chose to have kids," I said. "You chose to have 4 children. That was your decision, not mine. And I refuse to keep paying for your choices." "That's not how family works," my father said. "No," I shot back. "That's not how your family works. But I'm not part of it anymore." My mother let out a sharp breath, her face twisted with rage. "We did everything for you, and this is how you repay us?" I didn't blink. "You did nothing for me." Silence. And then Mia spoke. "You really don't want to come back?" she asked, her voice small. I met her eyes. "I love you, Mia," I said softly. "But I can't." Her lower lip trembled. "But Mom said—" "Mom lies," I said before I could stop myself. My mother sucked in a breath, scandalized. "You are so selfish," she hissed. "Do you even hear yourself? Do you even care what this is doing to your siblings?" I clenched my fists. "No," I said, "because it's not my job to take care of them. It never was." She opened her mouth, but I didn't let her speak. "You forced me into a role I never asked for. You stole my childhood. And now, because I finally said enough, you're trying to make me the villain?" My father's expression darkened. "We raised you. We put food on the table, clothes on your back. You needed me more than I ever needed you," I interrupted. "And now you don't know what to do without me." They didn't have a response. Because they knew I was right. I took a step back into my apartment. "This conversation is over," I said. Mia's eyes filled with tears. I swallowed hard. "Mia," I said gently, "I meant what I said before. If you ever need me, really need me, you know where to find me. But I can't be the person they want me to be anymore." Her lip quivered, but she nodded. I turned back to my parents. "Don't come here again," I said. "If you do, I'll call the cops." My mother's eyes widened. You wouldn't. I met her gaze, unflinching. Try me. She stared at me for a long, silent moment. Then, with a sharp inhale, she grabbed Mia's hand and turned away. My father followed. They didn't say goodbye. And as I watched them walk away, I felt it. The last chain snapping, and I shut the door.